how to buy tax lien certificates. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about tax lien certificates, tax deed certificates, and even a state that gives you a 50% interest rate on tax liens. Amazing, right? 50%. Loan sharks don't even get that. So make sure you stay at the end and let's get right into it. So what happens is that when a county sends out a real estate tax bill, if that bill goes unpaid, then the county panics a little bit and says, we got to get this money because we have to pay for the schools, we have to pay the teachers, the principal, the heating for the building, the air conditioning, all that. They've got to fill the potholes, collect the trash, do all the things that a county government does, and they work pretty much on a cash basis. Like the federal government, they don't have a printing press where they can just print more money when they need it. Instead, they have to work on a cash basis. So it's important that they collect all of the tax revenue that they planned from the real estate taxes. So when someone doesn't pay the real estate taxes, what the county says is, all right, how can we get this tax money? And what some of them have come up with, this is in about 30 states, about 2,000 counties, they came up with a plan where they say, you know what? If someone, maybe you, will pay these taxes, we'll give you a certificate which entitles you, if the homeowner pays the taxes, to get the taxes plus the interest. And you know what? We'll give you a really high rate of interest. As I said, the highest in the land is 50%, which is crazy. And I'll tell you what that state is at the end. But for meanwhile, let's focus on what this actually is. So you can get these really high rates of interest, and it's backed by real estate, because at the end of the day, depending on the state you're dealing with, they're either going to give you the property if the person doesn't pay their taxes. And imagine being able to get a property for only a year's worth of taxes. How amazing that would be. You paid the tax bill and then they give you the property. And tax bills are usually 2% or less of the property value per year. So you could literally be buying it for like 2 cents on the dollar. That's not usually what happens though. Instead, what usually happens, like 99% of the time, is that the owner will pay the taxes plus the interest plus the penalties, and you, as the tax lien certificate holder, get to collect that money. And you know what else is really cool? You don't actually have to do anything. You don't have to send out any nasty collection letters. You don't have to sue anybody. You don't have to do anything, because when the person decides to pay their taxes because they're going to lose ownership of their property, they go down to the tax collector's office. They pay the taxes. They pay the interest, they pay the penalties, and then behind the scenes, the tax collector quietly takes that money and hands it to you as the owner of the tax lien certificate. So no one is calling you to beg you for a break or for an extension or anything like that. You're not part of that process whatsoever. Instead, the person is just dealing with the county. The rates aren't negotiable. The rates are set by state law, so they can't negotiate. They may do payment plans or things like that, but ultimately, that bureaucrat doesn't have the power to change much of anything. So that means you don't have to suffer with negotiating with people. Instead, you just wait and they either pay, or if they don't pay, then most likely the property is going to be sold to the highest bidder. And then the money that comes off the top is your money for your penalties, interest, and the principal that you paid. So you can make really, really great returns on these things. Now, in some states, like for example, in Illinois and other states, they give you the property at the end if the person doesn't pay. So literally you can pay like a year's worth of taxes. And then if the person doesn't pay, eventually you can force a deed to be produced to give you the property. And at the end of the day, on those, generally, you end up having to pay any subsequent taxes, meaning if you're in a state with a 2-year time period for someone to pay, you'll pay for your tax lien, plus you'll pay the next year's taxes, and then you'll get the property. So you might be getting the property for 2 years worth of taxes, which would be on average about 4% of the property value. So pretty crazy, right? And you can really do well with this. But generally speaking, you're not going to get the property, you're going to get the interest. And there's also a way, a sort of ninja secret way of doing away with all the competition and getting just pages and pages of liens to choose from. Those are called over-the-counter sales. And the way that works is that these are leftover liens that no one ever bought. Often that happens just because there's such a huge volume. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of these liens sold every year. And sometimes investors just don't get to review them all. So they're ones that definitely slip through the cracks, and you could take advantage of that. Now, I have a buddy of mine who is the world's foremost expert. It's like the secret underground guru for over-the-counter tax deed investing. He's been doing this since the 90s. Very few people know about him, but he is the master. I sat down with him for about 20 minutes the other day, and I had him spill his guts on over-the-counter tax deed investing and tax lien investing, and he is really an amazing, amazing guy who has the system that you need to know that it takes most people years to even figure out exists, but I want you to learn that right now. So I put a link down below to my interview where he spilled his guts and where you can get your start in investing in over-the-counter tax deed certificates, which is the way to do it. Everybody else doesn't teach it this way. They teach it as, oh, just go to the auction with every other yokel, spend a month doing due diligence and maybe get a couple of good liens. Forget that. Go for the over-the-counter market. That is the market you want to go for. So start by clicking that video, go watch it, and your mind is going to go and be blown, and the money that can be yours is going to amaze you. So click on that video and I'll see you over there. And I promise that I tell you about the state that gives you 50%. The state is Texas, and it's actually better than 50% interest. It gives you two 25% penalties. So the day after the tax lien sale, if you buy that lien and they pay off the taxes, they have to pay not only the taxes, but a 25% penalty, which you get. And if they don't pay within 6 months, there's another 25% penalty. So if they pay it 6 months and a day, you get what you paid plus 50% penalty, which is just mind-boggling. Now, you're not setting the rate, so don't feel bad. It's the state legislators that set it. It's not negotiable. You're not even the one talking to them. They're talking to the tax collector when they pay that. So you don't need to be involved with it. But the fact is, you may as well invest where you're getting the best returns. And in Texas, that's 50%. This is Attorney Bob Diamond. Click in that video right now, and I'll see you over there at that Spill His Guts video.